used the building as a shelter for abused women and children. After the lease expiry, Usindiso Ministries ran out of funding and eventually abandoned the shelter in 2017. During 2018, members of the public moved in forcibly, but were soon forcibly removed by the City of Johannesburg. An audit conducted by the Department of Social Development in December 2018 recommended that the shelter should be shut down, but this was not done. During December 2018, members of the public moved into the Usindiso building. In early 2019, the City of Johannesburg, accompanied by the Department of Home Affairs and the SAPS, raided the Usindiso building. The raid revealed distressing living conditions under which people resided at Usindiso building. The distressing living conditions continued until the occurrence of the fire on 31st August 2023. The residents did not receive basic municipal services such as water, electricity, and waste management from the City of Johannesburg. The residents used firefighting connections and equipment such as fire extinguisher hoses to draw water for domestic use. The residents were illegally connected to the electricity grid with uncovered cables. The building was partitioned with highly flammable material to create living space and erect shacks. The built-in emergency evacuation features like passageways and doors were blocked. Creating living spaces along the passageways reduced the width of some of the evacuation passageways. Emergency passageways were blocked with chained and locked steel butler bays to secure residents and their property. The safety features of the building were significantly compromised, with exit doors being welded and therefore not operable as escape routes. The building also became a crime-infested site. In the report, we make, amongst others, the following factual findings, which accord with the evidence presented before the Commission. The Usindiso building was never zoned for residential purposes, despite JPC and the city having concluded a lease agreement with Usindiso Ministries. The absence of documents evidencing the change of land use rights from a pass office to residential was proof of the fact that no land conversion was undertaken. At the time of the fire, we find that Usindiso building had a high prevalence of crime. We also find that Usindiso building was abandoned by the City of Johannesburg and the Johannesburg Property Company Limited at least since 2019. The building was vandalized by the removal and sale for cash of the steel reinforcement material supporting the columns, pillars, and slabs. The City of Johannesburg and JPC never attended to repairs and maintenance of the building. The Usindiso building showed signs of disrepair and danger to life and property. It became liable to be demolished within the meaning of Section 12 of the Building Regulations and Building Standards Acts of 1977. The report also finds that there was evidence of contraventions of the city bylaws by the city. For instance, the absence of doors swinging in the direction of escape routes due to being welded together, and the blocking of passageways, escape routes, and stairwells is evidence of contraventions of Section 13 of the Emergency Services Bylaws. The use of firefighting connections to source water for domestic use due to the disconnection of potable water supply is evidence of the contravention of the water bylaws and Section 1 read with Section 3 of the Water Services Act. The accumulation of waste in and around the building and the COJ's failure to remove the waste, keep the building free from waste, and prevent the building from being used as a dumping site is proof of contravention of Section 27, 70, 73, 74 of the Waste Management Services Bylaws. The accumulation of waste, the presence of unhygienic and unsanitary conditions, the existence of overcrowding, and the occupation of the building without a sufficient supply of potable water, coupled with the COJ's failure to prevent, eliminate, and remove such public health hazards and nuisances, is evidence of contraventions of Sections 5, 6, 7, and 38 of the Public Health Bylaws. The evidence on overcrowding also shows a clear breach of the national building regulations. The report also finds that witness X, who gave evidence in camera, admitted to having caused the fire when, after strangulating a victim on the ground floor, he sought to conceal the matter by setting his victim's body on fire using petrol, which then triggered the conflagration that ensued. The expert evidence from the SAPS confirms that the fire originated from the ground floor. We also find that the consequences of the fire would have been mitigated significantly had the city complied with its legal obligations as owner and municipality. The report makes, amongst others, the following recommendation. At an appropriate place, the city must consider putting a plaque in memory of the deceased and bearing the names of those who perished in the fire and whose identities would have been established when this recommendation is implemented. The process of demolishing the Usindiso building must be seen to its full and final implementation. Since all contraventions of the national acts and bylaws have been established, the city must engage in an independent process to determine who must bear individual responsibility or liability for each of the contraventions found in our report, and to report any attendant criminal conduct to the relevant authorities for further investigations. The Board of Directors of the JPC must consider taking appropriate action against Ms. Borders, the Chief Executive Officer of the Johannesburg Property Company, for the total disregard of managing the Usindiso building, despite knowledge of the disastrous state of affairs since at least 2019. Witnesses X and Y and their cohorts must be probed further for possible prosecution for multiple murders and attempted murders, arson, the obstruction of justice, and assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm to those victims where an appropriate case can be made. Psychosocial support to the victims must be continued in respect of those victims who still needed to deal with the trauma that was caused by the fire. The process by the Department of Home Affairs to replace the identity documents destroyed in the fire must continue and expedited to those entitled to them. The mayor should consider the position of the MMC for the Department of Human Settlement and Public Safety, whose political responsibility or lack of oversight conduced to bring about the disaster that was Usindiso, and the accounting officers of the city's entities, namely the Johannesburg Property Company, Johannesburg Water, City Power, Pick It Up, and picked up must be subjected to disciplinary processes where there is evidence of contraventions of their duties, which, if they had been performed, would have avoided the Usindiso building tragedy. As to liability and responsibility, the report finds that the City of Johannesburg and its entities, including the Johannesburg Property Company, must bear the responsibility in part for what ultimately became the tragedy of the 31st of August 2023. In the limited time that the Commission was able to probe the circumstances surrounding the fire, there was no opportunity to drill down to the individuals in the various entities who must bear responsibility and accountability. While desperate living conditions of the residents of the building exacerbated the outcome of the fire, some partial and contributory apportionment of wrongdoing must follow. This is important to vindicate the rule of law, which must apply equally to all. On the lesson learned, the report perspicuously finds that no case amply demonstrates the consequences of failure to comply with the obligations the law placed on a municipality and owner than the calamity that was Usindiso, precisely in part because the city contravened the laws and the bylaws. This magnifies the gravity of the problem and must be avoided in future. The Commission wishes to express its appreciation to SERI, ICF, Norton Rose, Johannesburg Fire Action Group, and the evidence leaders and the Secretariat for the assistance in the execution of its mandate. We are profoundly grateful to all those legal representatives who gave their time pro bono for the service of the victims. We also acknowledge the support and assistance Mr. China gave to the fire victims. We express our deep appreciation for the sterling effort EMS made in responding to the emergency calls, tackling the fire, and rescuing those in danger and easing what could have been a worse calamity. Due to the ongoing work of the Commission, we shall not at this stage be taking any questions until the work of the Commission has been completed in part 2, but our spokesperson is available to the media to field questions and conduct interviews. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, Justice Rampep, and Commissioner Tilly Mabena. Does the report and the wishes of the Commission on how this should be taken further. But from our side, I had discussions with the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, and I committed that we'll then, now that the report has been released, we'll share the report with them tomorrow. And I think they will need time to study the report, and on the basis of that, we'll establish the joint implementation committee between the province and the municipality so that some of the recommendations we can move with speed to implement them. I think you are quite aware that witness X or witness Y, I'm not sure who's that one, has already appeared in court. We'll then request additional information from the SAPS, and if they need additional information from us on the basis of this report, we are. So, but from my office, we will, and we have said it to the chair of the commission, appreciate the work, but we accept fully without any reservation the recommendations as tabled, and we'll move with speed to implement the recommendations. and then we'll then publicize through Government Gazette Part B of the work that they should also continue to execute, so that that task can resume as quickly as possible. I want to leave it there. You are aware the commission, it's not me, they say they don't want to entertain, but if there are questions you want to direct to me, I'm ready, you can, and then we can take it from there. But you must be aware that I'm just a recipient of a report, because they've requested that we give them that space for them to continue with outstanding work. But if there's somebody that wants to ask me questions, we are ready. We can take it.
Perhaps we can take the questions in bunches of 3 just to make it easy
Sure.
to conduct the session. Can you just say your name, the institution from which you represent, and then indicate what your question is to the group. Anyone? Oh, I've been called to order by Honorable Mabena, the commissioner, who says to me that I should have first introduced myself. My name is Advocate Dozo Kwale, and I am the recently appointed spokesperson of the commission. So feel free to also address questions to me after the session is done. Right, so I'll start with the gentleman this side. I'll try to do both sides. So gentleman with the hat this side. Anyone this side? Okay, I'll have the gentleman that side, and then the gentleman this side. Okay, so you can maybe start.
Mr. Premier, my name is Brian Sukuru.
Yes.
I'm a journalist with the Citizen newspaper. This report.
For how long have you been there? Yes.
This report points to several failures by the city as well as the property company. And my question is, in what way are you, as the provincial government, going to hold them to account for all this?
Well, Babs, to be quite frank to them, I only communicated with the mayor this morning. I think courtesy dictates that a report of this magnitude that mentions them, they should be given a heads up. And they were only given those heads up this morning. And my view is that we should give them an opportunity to go through it. If they accept it, it will make the things easier for us. Then we can move to the next stage of ensuring that we rectify what needs to be rectified. But we live in a world of litigation. If they want the report to be reviewed because they don't agree with it, we also have to have that option open, because people have rights. You can't just say implement the report. So where I stand, I'll hand over the report to the executive mayor tomorrow, and then the executive mayor probably will share it with his executive council, and on the basis of that, then they can advise us that they accept the report and what they expect us to do if they accept the report. But we can't appoint commissions for nothing. That's what I'm saying. I don't want even to change a comma or a sentence. The way they report the recommendation is, I'm moving to the next stage to implement their recommendation. And to implement their recommendation, you need the city to be part of that aspect. Not only the city, the police, the many institutions that are mentioned here, so that we can establish the implementation committee, so that on a monthly basis or so, we then track the implementation, so that this report must not gather dust, must provide answers. Thanks.
The second person was the gentleman.
Good morning, Premier. My name is Andy Chin. I'm a human rights activist. I have been working with the victims since day one of the fire, and hence have brought many of the victims to the commission. I just want to say firstly, thank you so much for having the commission. As you pointed out, there's a lot of this notion that commissions are just commissions, but I have seen the value of this commission.
Thank you.
It's become
Yeah.
almost part of crime, listening to the recommendation. And the first thing I would like to say is I'm glad the city is putting up their hands for saying that they are responsible for it. My question is really around the victims who are still deal with on a daily basis. When you start to say that you will be doing something jointly between the city and the province, there's always been a concern about escalation processes where we've said if the city is not able to or not willing to put in measures, is it not the responsibility of province and the national to get involved? And in this particular case, we've seen that the city has been not ready for this disaster, and we expected that the province had stepped in to play a greater part. My question is, do you think that province will be calling on national as well as President Ramaphosa was there on the first day, and he made certain promises to the victims which they're holding, to get back on track with their lives?
Well, thanks indeed, and I truly appreciate your words of encouragement, and also appreciate the work that you are doing for the victims, because it's very important that we've got some form of relationship to resolve outstanding matters and to attend to outstanding matters. But I'm also happy from the findings of the report, because it was very clear they protected the rights of the victim, not only to appear before the commission, but their stay in our country to be managed in a manner that it doesn't affect their rights, but secondly doesn't affect the evidence that they needed to present. So we'll continue to work that. I don't want to prejudge the municipality, to be quite frank. I think it will be unfair to them. As I said, I spoke to them this morning. I need to release the report to them. They have to study it, and on the basis of that, they will advise. But this is the Provincial Commission, so we have a responsibility to implement the recommendation, because it's established by law and it's backed up by the Constitution of the country. And thus far, we have never had anyone who's challenging the establishment of the commission. There might be challenges on some side issues, but the commission has concluded its part, and then therefore we need to, because it's our commission. The element of disaster is an area that propelled some of us to request that we establish this, because I can tell you, immediately after we established that commission, I think there were 3 or 4 buildings that went on fire. Immediately after that. But we needed a basis. That's why I'm saying the second part of the commission will then guide us on how best we are. I'm one person that, if there's one area that makes me, I was in the CBD again this morning, makes me to have some sleepless nights, is the state of the CBD. We can't allow that state to continue. We can't. So we need to formulate a way of who's taking responsibility. So if you say it's national, it's province, it's local government, but our CBDs, and it's not only Johannesburg, you go to Germiston, you go to Rodeo Court, all our CBDs, they need a special intervention. And that's an intervention that one is trying to formulate. How best can we intervene within the shortest possible time, but amass the necessary resources that are needed so that you can intervene. So the second part of the report, therefore, will give us that idea. But there are people that are mentioned in this report, that there are one that are collecting rent, and their names are there, and this report is very clear as well on the modus operandi that they were utilizing. So we can't fold our arms and say, let bygones be bygones. It's about accountability. It's about bringing those that have brought us this unfortunate incident to it. I mean, the president came, I requested the president, can I go ahead to establish this commission? Indeed, the president gave me the go-ahead to establish the commission. I even went to the president, said, President, I really believe that Justice Hampempe and retired judges will be a better individual to assist us. He gave us the go-ahead to appoint her and the team that she's working with. So I don't think an accusation that the president has not fulfilled his commitment is fair. We have now received the report. I'll also share it with his office, and if there are areas where he feels that we need to take them further, we will do so. We'll do so. But I really do be unfair when the report is still fresh. We cast aspersions whether either national office or the presidency will not want to implement some of the areas that have been identified. Can we leave it here? I can see Advocate Kwabe needs to heal because the hand is not that well, so we don't have to keep him here for quite some time. But if there's a last round, I don't mind to take that last round. Unless if Chair and the Commissioner, you want to say something? I don't know.
No, just to mention that we will be beginning with the second part of our inquiry on the 13th of May. We'll make that announcement on website in due course, but we'll be commencing with the second part on the 13th of May.
Okay.
Yes, Honorable Premier, there was just one person that I had promised I would take a question.
Oh.
Can I just take
Please
just
do,
one
please do.
question and then we can maybe close it, or maybe,
Yeah.
maybe
Maybe close it.
Maybe, maybe two more people if
Okay.
there's anyone. I see we haven't heard from any of our women colleagues, so if any, not to put pressure on
I'm
anyone.
worried about your hand.
It's
Okay.
thank you for that concern. So I'll take that gentleman, and then if anyone else from our women colleagues wants to enter a question, I'll give them an opportunity.
Thank you so much. Premier, it's on the money
Yep.
crisis. Premier, I've also been in the security for a long time. I just need to thank the chair and the team on the patience that they are having when one is attending the commission there. Premier, the seat of Johannesburg, the buildings there, and there have been reports about not only Usindiso, so many buildings, but in the meantime, we're going to wait for the final report from the commission, which might come towards the end of the year, October, November, somewhere there. What are the plans that perhaps government is having, especially the housing government, in making sure that we avoid another Usindiso, especially with regard to when some of the witnesses were giving evidence, when they were asked by the evidence leaders that where are they staying now, some are saying that they're still in some of the buildings, and when they are asked about the conditions of those buildings, are they better than Usindiso? Some have said that they are worse where they are, and some are saying that no changes, they are the same. So that giving us to say that there are so many Usindiso-like buildings there. So in the meantime, the short term to make sure that we prevent another Usindiso anytime soon. Thank you.
I wish I could say yes, but my conscience dictates that there are lots and lots of role players. There are people that have abandoned those buildings, and you don't go to somebody's building without either their permit. But this report has given fresh light to say when the building was reported, there are steps that should have been taken that were not taken. To me, it's a fundamental finding that gives us the ability to intervene at an early stage. And that is crucial. Secondly, Johannesburg, Tshwane, have just won a landmark case on how to repossess abandoned buildings. And they got it through the courts. We are following that as well, very, very closely, because that also gives us some form of authority to intervene where we need to intervene. I know the city of Johannesburg has a standing court decision on evictions. We also want to bring that element. But wait until we get into the next political term, the 7th administration. That Johannesburg can't be left unattended the way it is. It can't be. It's an indictment on all of us. I mean, when I grew up, I think Bob Skudu will also concur with us. Carlton Center was something that we could compare to Paris and many other cities. We can't compete with Dubai with the CBD. So we need a complete reorientation of that CBD. What are we doing it? Are we building a new Johannesburg city, or are we demolishing this one? What is the cost of demolition? And all those things. We've got a team that has been trying to assist us to lay our hands on the reorientation. So they will give us a report. I think on the basis of that particular report, we'll do. But I concur with you. That CBD can't be left unattended. Together with Alexander. I mean, we can't inherit Alexander the way apartheid had, and we made it worse as a democratic government. It does not make sense to me. So townships like Alexander, CBD like Johannesburg, they need a complete reorientation and approach on how to utilize them. So let's wait for that time. But I share your frustration and the issues that you have raised with us. Advocate Kwab, your hand might be painful if you delay.
Yes, I will close it here. As I said, unless there was any question from any of our women colleagues, then I would close the session. All right, it seems like there isn't. So let's maybe close the session here. I know that various people have already been thanked, but we want to thank the Honorable Premier for forming the commission and for making sure that it does its work, and to thank the commissioners for their stellar job, and to thank everyone who has contributed to the work of the commission. We will close it there for today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Sure. You could open funale. I know.